Hey Kyle, welcome to the discussion on temporal mechanics. There aren't nearly enough videos out there concerning the subject which are done by people who actually know what they're talking about. So it's exciting to see someone take on the subject and get into the guts of what temporal mechanics are and how time works. I have been out for a few months with unreasonably large amounts of code that I've had to do, mostly for school and some for work, so I'll have to catch up on that conversation between Matt and Pyro that you referred to. But for now, I'm going to try not to go over too many heads, but I do that sometimes, so if anyone has any questions at all or doesn't understand any part of what I'm talking about, then please do post comments or make a response, and I'll gladly go into more detail on whichever subject is in question. But back to Kyle's video, I had a couple questions concerning the video. The main one having to do with what you were saying about the theory of relativity. You said that the theory of relativity doesn't entail eternalism, and I mean, I agree in the sense that if you're a B theorist, then the theory of relativity supports presentism. However, from an A theorist point of view, it would seem that the theory would negate the idea of presentism unless you resort to solipsism. As far as an A theorist point of view, if objects are moving differently through time, then they're actually moving through time instead of moving differently at the same time. And if the objects were moving differently through time, then one person's present could be different from another person's present, which would mean that there would be at least two presents existing in the universe, which would entail at least one past and at least one future existing, which would not really be a presentist point of view anymore. And in the papers that I've read, philosophers have generally said that this isn't necessarily the case, but they've generally done it in a, I don't need this to be false in order for my theory to be true, so I'll just admit that it's possible so I don't have to argue it sort of way. I haven't really seen evidence that it's possible, so if you know of some, please do share. But insofar as the positions that you talked about, I do still hold to the idea that an atheist / eternalist who believes in a one-dimensional timeline, which is to say that neither the future nor the past can change and everything exists at all times, that point of view is no different than a B-theorist / presentist who would say that time doesn't exist and we only perceive of it due to the way our present state is changing. I did a series of videos a little while ago which argue that the only real difference between these ideas is one of semantics. The B-theorist is able to explain the present in the sense that if there's no future and no past, then the present is the only thing there. But the A-theorist has a bit of trouble in this, is if there is a singular timeline and everything exists at all points along it, then where can you really draw the line to say that this is the present and this is why it's moving forward? But the B-theorist does this at the cost of being able to really explain causality, because you can't really say that something caused another thing without talking in terms of tense. And so, I mean, there's give and take. I prefer to speak as an atheist simply because the language is more intuitive, but I haven't really found an argument yet that I wasn't able to make from both points of view. Then, insofar as the perjurantist versus endurantist, I don't really think that those are opposing positions. The idea of perdurance isn't really a method of describing the state of the universe, but only of naming objects within the universe. An endurantist only really has two options which make sense, which is, you can either say that there's only one real object, which is the universe, and everything else is part of it, or you can say that the only real objects which exist are those which can't be broken down into smaller parts. what perdurance does is simply allow us to split up our definition of objects, but we do it through defining arbitrary points in time, then grouping objects together arbitrarily within those points in time based on how they move. If they move together, then you can say that they're a single object. But I mean, it is an arbitrary system, which is simply used to help us with the language and what we're talking about. And I mean, calling this a can instead of a Yankeedoodle is also an arbitrary decision, the same kind of arbitrary decision. So it's really just a simple way to demarcate one object from another inside an enduring universe. But yeah, I guess I'm really looking forward to seeing what else you have to say on the subject. It's nice to see more people getting interested in temporal mechanics. So I'm hoping to see new videos soon.